Step one of learning how to drive a manual vehicle is learning how to do the clutch. Like well, I'd say first you actually have to understand what the clutch is. You understand that there's an extra little pedal there. Um, it does spice things up a bit. It's a very strong component of the engagement of driving the vehicle. So yeah, it seems all chill vibes at first, like we're just gonna drive a car and it around. No, there's more. Um, so once I realized that you kind of drive with 2 feet now, that was step one. And then step two was so I pick my words carefully because I don't know exactly what words I should be using here. But anywho, so basically, when you start the car, you turn the car on and it turns on. That part's pretty similar. But the difference is that when you turn on your regular car, you just go boop into drive and then you press the gas and you go. But see, in this situation, you put it on and then you have your foot on the brake and then you have your foot on the, well, trying to remember now. Anywho, the clutch is involved here, but essentially you have to push in the clutch, right? And once you push in the clutch, these details don't actually matter that much. So I don't want to confuse you because I'm really trying to put out a point here. And I don't want to get lost in the sauce of the details because some of the details really, they just don't matter. They really don't. But okay. So I think the key part that I'm trying to explain here is when you release, engage, whatever you're doing with the clutch there. So I'm telling you, it's a metaphor for life if you've never done it before. So essentially, your foot is pushed into this clutch, right? So like push and pull. Oh, there it is. Okay, maybe not. It felt really. I felt like push and pull is something that I experience a lot emotionally. So I thought that that was maybe I was going in. Bear with me. So essentially, you're literally doing. It's not even really a pull. It's more of a release, I guess. But essentially, is you push in, right? So the clutch is fully pushed in and engaged. Is engaged the word? It doesn't matter. So it's pushed in, right? And then the gas is kind of out here. Well, technically your foot would be on the brake, but you're going to switch your foot from the brake to the gas. So this foot is kind of like its own thing. We've only got 2 feet, 3 pedals, 2 feet. It gets dicey, I'm telling you. So essentially, your foot is going to start pushing into the gas because what you need is to give the car enough gas so that way you can start rescinding from here and it's going to catch somewhere. Don't understand the catch fully. I really don't. There's some type of catch, but it's going to catch, right? And getting it to catch is the whole thing. And everything you're doing with your feet, with your mind, with your whatever, in this moment in time, especially if you are not just with it, it's everything. So it's like, from how I was taught, still learning, is still very much so learning, is you have your RPMs on the dash and you want that number to kind of stay around the 2. It might could go a little above the 2. It might could get a little below the 2, but you kind of want to keep it around the 2. And if you feel differently about this, don't care. But essentially, this is what I've been learning. So you want to keep it around here. Because if you give it a little too much, that's not really what you want. It could work, it's okay, but like traditionally speaking, this is kind of what consistently gets the job done. And if you can learn how to go right here, hang out right here, get it to catch, and then go, that's how you learn how to drive the car. There's more to it than that as well, but there's a lot to it. But see, I, in real estate, have realized that having conversations with people about something that you maybe want from them, or like you want them to do something, or maybe you don't even want something from them. I mean, deep down you obviously, I guess, want something from them, but it's kind of like you're trying to gauge potential there. And when you're like interacting with a human being and like having a conversation, especially if you don't know them and it's like your first time talking and you're an inexperienced, probably more experienced in sales in general. I don't really think this is a like real estate specific conversation, because you're talking to a prospect and essentially they start heating up. And that, I guess, is probably what the comparison is as you start putting in effort, like you're told, all right, we're going to ask questions. We're going to try and qualify this individual. We're going to, dig up information. We're going to try to steer it over here. We're going to blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. There's a lot of just variables and like movement happening there. It's just everything's floating around. My hands, that's what the conversations feel like. This amount of chaos, that's what it feels like half the time, especially if you lack experience and you don't have full control because you don't truly know how to control the conversation. So it's like somebody says something and all of a sudden you start heating up because you realize that they're warmer than you thought that they were. It's like, oh, they're interested. There's potential here. Okay, this is exciting. And that's kind of what it feels like when you're trying to get it to catch in the first place. The clutch, the thing I mentioned before. This metaphor may not work for you, but it works for me. So whatever. But essentially is you're trying to give it just enough gas in that conversation. You can't push too hard, too hard. I mean, you got to get it just the right amount. Like you've got to push. You've got to push. You have to be invasive. You have to give it gas. But we're not slamming the pedal to the metal, and then that's not the goal here. So it's like this weird little dance where you're trying to kind of keep it at the two, I guess, if you will. And then finally, what happens is you get there. You get right there. And you start to feel it. Conversationally speaking, driving, catching the clutch speaking, whatever the words you want to use there. But somebody described it to me as, it's like, actually, I don't even think it's before that. It's not the dog that caught the ice cream truck or something. It's before that. It's like the anticipation of knowing it's right there. It's right there. But the problem is that if you don't keep going, it'll just fizzle out. And like when you see, when you're driving the car in this metaphor and that happens, I believe that is where we call, actually, I'm not even going to pretend to know what the word is, but I can tell you what happens is it's a loud, obnoxious sound. It's not that. It's not that aggressive, I would say, but it's just like a loud, uncomfortable, abrupt, don't like it. And it really makes you think to yourself next time, I'm not gonna let that happen because I don't want that to happen again. And it's kind of like it's similar in conversations, because it's like you didn't even get there. you you didn't actually get there. You started getting there, and you got so excited that you were starting to get there that you either rushed or you just like stopped, kind of, and then you didn't actually get there, and it just fizzles out. But then the second part is, let's say you keep going and you keep paying attention, and you're like, all right, I'm watching this, I'm watching how much I'm putting in, I'm watching how delicately I pull back, I'm paying attention to everything. And then you feel it. You feel it when it does it, because you just it's kind of a feeling. And that is a whole other step, because you get it, and it's like, oh, I did it, the thing I've been trying to do, I did it. But now we're in it. Now you got the car started, you got the car moving. Now you actually still have to drive the car. Just because, see, for me, it would catch, and then I would be like, oh, it caught, stop. Okay. And the thing is that's when you now have the opportunity to kind of give it as much gas as you want until you reach another level and you have to shift gears and then go forward again. And I think driving a stick shift vehicle is one of the most metaphorical life experiences of all time. And I feel like I've definitely heard people talk about this, but in real time experiencing it, it's metaphorical. You should try, because if you aren't already familiar, but it is in kind of like realizing, just like in life, you can apply it in, I think, so many different ways. But for myself, I look at it a lot in, I keep hitting this little thingamabob. I think about it in a sales conversation, or not even necessarily a sales conversation, any form of consumer to business conversation, or business to business conversation, however you want to word it, where a product or a service is being exchanged. Even if you're not the sales department, you are kind of participating in a sales-esque role. So it's really, I think, the art of learning how to get people to do what you want, or the art of being able, I don't know. I think you have to be okay with saying that if I want something, I have the right to go ask for it and get it, because it's not malicious. Ooh. And it's, when you're in there, you're not, I guess that's kind of it. Like, if you're not actually trying to get the car started and get moving and get going anywhere, all of this is going to be too much. And all of the questions and the this and the that, it's like you've got to be in it, and you've got to be in a place to where once you're in it and you do put all this effort in, you understand why you did it. It's not just about a high and a summit. Like, it's not just, oh, I put all this in, that was so exciting, that was so, I reached the top of the mountain, we're here. Cool. You got a client, you've got a listing, you, I don't know, sold something, you did this, you did that. Okay, now go do it again. And again, and again, and again. And even if you're not, for example, changing gears, you're not doing something exciting, you have to still keep giving it gas and going. You can't stop giving it gas. If you, the car, I mean, I guess if you want to get metaphorical about it, which is what I'm doing, I mean, you could start to get into things about cruise control, but we don't really cruise through parking lots at 10 and just like whatever. I mean, you pay attention to what you're doing, especially when you're learning how to go. You're not on the freeway. You're not out here just trailblazing, going however fast. Like, you are intentionally driving. you are intentionally moving around and you have to pay attention to what you're doing. There is stopping and there is going, there's activation, there is deactivation. You have to, when you kind of like, for example, when you pull up and you stop the car, if the car is in first, or not first, if the car is in second, you got to get the car back to first. So that way you can get the car back going again. Or if the car is, in first and you're going to turn the car off, you've got to put it back into, I guess, middle, neutral, whatever you want to call it. That's funny. Yeah, it's just, I guess, the mid. It's like that little limbo middle spot. And it's so funny how, like, even with myself right now, it's like I say to myself all the time that I don't think I know what I'm doing. And I realize constantly that I do. I do know very much so what I'm doing. I'm scared to go out there and do it. It's almost like being scared to say, I'm going to go out here and make shit happen. I'm going to ask for something like I deserve this, blah, 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 whatever it is. But it's realizing that you're actively and intentionally engaging to get where you want to go. Like, we are putting all of this effort into learning how to get this car started and move so we can go somewhere. Like, this is the vessel, this is the vehicle. And you could say to yourself, like, well, Sydney, why do you need to learn how to drive a manual stick shift vehicle? That seems like it just doesn't seem like it's actually going to do anything for you. But, I hear you there. I've considered that myself. But the problem with me is it's not a problem. It's just a acknowledgement. I'm not really like, I'm a little abnormal. And I think that sometimes for me, when I learn how to do something that has nothing to do with something that I want to do, all of a sudden it just helps me learn how to do what I've been trying to do the whole time. Um, when I took, well, when I took biology when I was in high school, we took this thing. I call it a thing. It was like a learning test. And I was a global learner. And at first, they made it sound like that meant I was a dumbass, but apparently, global learners learn globally. So, like, we see things. I guess maybe it's like a metaphor. I don't know. Maybe that's where my metaphoricalness comes from. What was the lesson? There were so many. If you can see them, good for you. If you cannot, you could watch this again and see if it speaks to you. And if it doesn't, then maybe you're not global. I don't know. Maybe this one's for the global learners. Okay.